my ice bath over here. Oh, just hit my head on the parasol. Jesus, that's low. Look how low that's unacceptable. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's not even built for 6 foot. Utter madness, utter madness. Right, I've got my ice bath here. It's getting a bit of a funky colour. I need to put a, what's it called? Chlorine tablet. Now I've got my chlorine tablets down here. So tip number 1, gang, anyone who's looking to do an ice bath, tip number 1, get some chlorine tablets. Basically, they're just for the hot tub tablets. You need about 1 tablet a month, nothing crazy. I should do an introduction to this live, just quickly. So I'm going to do an ice bath with you all. I'm going to try and take you through the steps, what you need to do if you were thinking about getting into doing ice baths, essentially. So, next thing we have here is the ice. Now, this is all homemade, manufactured ice, so to speak. Just water out the tap into some Tupperware. These are 10-litre drums. We have 20 litres of ice between the two of them. They're just some old chemical stuff that I washed out and cut the top off. This is a cat litter tray. That has another 5 litres of water in it. Sorry, 4 litres of water in it. And we have another 5 litres of ice here. So about 30 kilos-ish, or thereabouts, of ice. Now that's needed because it's very warm here in the UK at the moment. It's a rainy day today. It's about 22 degrees today, Celsius. So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Hey guys, hey everyone in the chat. I'm out of breath because I just have to lug all this all upstairs, so bear with me. Oh, and I also have a bag full of cool packs, ice packs. There's loads of them in there. So we've got about a 10-15 minute chat to do. So while we do that, the first step is to get the water cold. So I'm just going to put the tripod up there and start dunking in this ice. So once the ice melts off this, I'll be able to slide it out of. Be able to slide it out of the what's the word I'm looking for? Container that it's in. So once you put the ice in, you want to wait about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so that the water temperature comes down. There's absolutely no point in putting the water, the ice in the water, and then getting it straight away. The water takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get down to temperature. And the whole idea of an ice bath, as I'll explain in a moment, is you want to get it as cold as possible. That's the goal. There we go. Right. Right, gang. Let's take you over to the ice. So here it's all in here, and then we want to give it a bit of a spin up. Once the sides melt with these, I can get this ice out, and then smash it up a bit, and it'll bring the water temperature right down. I just hit my fucking head on this thing again. Look, this is mental. It's just made for short people. It's a short people parasol. Mental. And then once I didn't even do that as a joke either. Just made me angry. Once the ice is out of the packets, I can smash it up. And then once the ice is really small, then you swirl it around. It brings the temperature right down real quickly. So let me just position this. I'm just going to see if I can get these. Not yet. Not yet. So we'll give it a couple of minutes. Right. Let's talk theory. let's talk theory of the ice bath. So, why should you do an ice bath is the first question I hear you asking. It sounds mental to get into a load of cold water, and it is mental, you're absolutely right. And the whole reason it's mental is because it triggers your fight, flight, or freeze response. Your amygdala, that's responsible for adrenaline as much as your adrenals are responsible for adrenaline, but whether or not they're being released, whether or not adrenaline is being released is caused by the amygdala. I need to get my breath back. Better Wim Hof. Talk about breathing in a minute. You've got to do a lot of breath work. So the whole point of this exercise is to do something that you don't like doing. Now, instinctively, getting into freezing cold water, you don't want to do. And the reason why you don't want to do it is because it'll fucking kill you if you stay in there too long. So there's a tolerance to cold water, and therefore there's a throttle of how much adrenaline you can release, or more specifically, how well you can control the adrenaline. Now, why do you want to control your adrenaline, I hear you ask? Now, your adrenaline system, your adrenals, are responsible for stress, ultimately. It's a big indicator that stress is amongst the body. Now, you would release large amounts of adrenaline if you were in the wild. For example, if you were being chased by a bear or a lion. I know it's an extreme example, but if you were in any sort of danger, your body would release adrenaline because it's stressed. You're in a stressful situation. You might die. So large amounts of adrenaline is released so that you can think clearer, think faster, act faster, move faster. You'll be infinitely more stronger in that moment. There are reports, and you can Google this, that mums are able to flip a car over if their child is trapped underneath it. There's several reports, in fact, of these severe life and death situations where an average sized woman was able to pick up like an old 60s car from one end, lift it up, and then drag her child out with the other hand. I shit you not, documented, eyewitnesses and everything. Don't know if it's ever been caught on camera, but there are these absurd stories, and any man will know, and any woman will know that, if you've ever been in a fight, that adrenaline rush that you get during and after, for minutes and minutes and minutes after, you feel alive. You feel, well, thankfully you feel alive because the situation might have killed you. So that's what the whole mechanism is designed to do. It's designed to keep you alive. And unfortunately, we live in a society now, we live in an age where that system isn't tested on a day-to-day basis. Because if you were living in the wild, on a day-to-day basis, there would be multiple situations that could kill you. That's survival, it's evolution, it's the wild. Very few things survive the wild. A lot more things die than survive, let's put it that way. And I'm sure we all can relate to that on some level with the experiences we've been through. So because it's not a daily test anymore, our adrenal system, our mind, our amygdala has become bored. I'm speaking metaphorically, of course. It's not used as much as it should do, and therefore for a lot of people it's a very sensitive system, and even the slightest emotional thought can trigger a large adrenaline rush, also known as anxiety. Anxiety is the inability to control adrenaline. It's essentially what it is, and it's stemmed from emotional responses because we're no longer physically threatened. In fact, the #1 source of anti-anxiety is exercise. The reason why exercise works for anxiety is because it uses up your adrenaline. And when you are using your adrenaline in sport or combat or a mixed martial art or a boxing match or a karate or a wrestling or a horse jumping or a athlete meet or a swim or a whatever the sport may be, when you're using that adrenaline, your mind is no longer overly sensitive to your emotional triggers for adrenaline release. So it all comes full circle. Now, where does the ice bath come into this? When you get into an ice bath, you release a huge amount of adrenaline. Massive. Your body goes into shock. Fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze, quite literally.
quite literally. And it's one of the 3 mechanisms, and it's a way in which you can use that adrenaline, essentially, that adrenal energy. You are using it in a concentrated, controlled, safe environment. That's the key thing, and that's why it works so well for so many people, because their fear, the anxiety can be so overwhelming that the act of doing something that was going to increase your anxiety is crippling. I know that feeling all too well. So you start off slowly with ice baths. You start off very slowly. Let me just empty these blocks out. Oh, here's one. I'll show you this one. I'll show you this one. There we go. Kilos of ice. Another 10 kilos of ice. Another fun bit. Another fun bit. This is quite fun. This is quite a fun thing to do. Releases a bit of anger. Good, that's that one done. Remember to close your eyes if you're doing this. Once you've lined it up. Almost there. Now, if you had money, you could just use bags of ice. I'd recommend at least 10 to 15 bags of ice. If it's a warm day. If it's a winter day, then you don't need as much. Just breaking up the other big bits. Now that it's broken up, next thing you need to do, I like to use one of these paddles here. You want to create a whirlpool. Let's see if I can show you this. I'm going to create a whirlpool. Right, let me leave that for another 10 minutes. You want it really cold. The colder the better, but I've been doing this a while now. So there are different levels to the ice. The water, the cold water puts your body into a complete state of shock. You get a huge adrenal dump because every inch of the skin up to your neck, every inch of skin up to your neck is covered in freezing cold water. Right? My goal is to get this water down to about 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. And in the winter, I can get it down to kind of 0.5, 1 degrees. And that's my favorite time of the year now. Because that when it's that cold, not only is the adrenaline release huge, but it becomes a battle. It's a competition. I've got times that my maximum times at different temperatures. And I'll explain why that's important as well. But to start with, cold water is a lot for people. So my recommendation would be to start as a complete beginner, to open the door slowly, is to go and have a bath. Go and have a normal bath, get naked, get in the bath, normal warm bath, get in it, right? So you're nice and relaxed. Do some deep breath inhales and exhales to reset your heart rate, get down to a nice resting level, and then turn the cold water on. So just let the cold water slowly cool down all the water. You'll have to let the plug out every now and then to let the water out. But eventually you'll reach the point where you're just sitting in cold water and it won't feel cold because it's been a gradual increase. So if you do that 2 or 3 times and sit in the cold water, once you feel like you can't get any colder, sit there for a minute or two. If at any point you start shivering, shivering's a no-no. We don't want to shiver. Shiver's the first stage of hypothermia. So if you start shivering, it's okay to shiver. It just means you've got to get out, okay? So you can shiver for a good 10 to 15 minutes before it really causes you, well, for me, you know, I shouldn't be giving out advice. I'm not a trained ice bath professional, but I am a trained nutritional professional. And this falls under that bracket, I believe. It's a intense form of exercise, essentially. But always consult your doctor if you've got any heart conditions or anything like that. Go and consult your doctor. This is just what I do. I'm just trying to tell you the theory behind it. Where was I? Yes, once you've got used to the cold water, then you do the same thing if you want to start really slowly, or you can just then start getting into ice water. Start with 1 bag of ice, 2 bags of ice, 4 bags of ice, 8 bags of ice, and then build it up that way. And then you'll get to the point, there's a switch. There's a day, for me it was about the 3rd or 4th day, there's a switch in which it becomes enjoyable. It becomes an enjoyable experience. The first 4 times I did not enjoy it. It took me, the first time I did it, it took me about half an hour to get into the water. I was just so nervous. My adrenaline was uncontrollable. And this is the key. This is what the ice bath is doing. It's teaching you to control your adrenaline. It's teaching you to throttle your anxiety. It's giving you the control of your adrenals. And now, as you'll see, once the water gets really cold, when I get in, I barely hyperventilate. I can now control my breath. I can control my physical reaction to the ice cold water. And I can sit in there for 20, 25 minutes. The longest is 30 minutes, but it started to get a little bit warmer in the water once I did that. This is when it becomes a challenge. Can you beat your previous time? You know, be safe. Don't go crazy. As soon as you start to shiver, get out. But start making note of your time. Now, you're probably thinking, Dan, how do you extend the amount of time that you're in there? In theory, is the longer the better? Now, in theory, kind of yes. Certainly in terms of mental endurance. Certainly in terms of being able to control allowing your mind to be controlling your body, allowing you to feel your body. I mean, you feel every part of your body when you're in there. It exposes everything. The other thing you'll notice is parts of your body will start to hurt. So what cold water does is it reduces inflammation. It's an amazing tool to reduce inflammation. And if you have any inflammation anywhere in your body, within a minute, you'll feel it. So I had inflammation in my stomach about 4, 6, must be longer now, must be 9 months ago. It wasn't a year, about 9 months ago, just before Christmas. Where are we? On the 6th month now, aren't we? So yeah, it must have been about October, so 9 months. About 9 months ago, I had some digestion issues because of the painkillers. It's fucked my stomach up a treat. And when I got in there, for the first, I'd say maybe 10 to 15 ice baths that I did, my stomach would ache. It would just ache. It would hurt when I was in there. I'd get stomach ache and I would want to get out. And then after a while it stopped. And I believe that to be my gut was so inflamed from the painkillers, and this ice water reduced that inflammation. And the reason why I think that is because of the science that I know, but also because my hands and my feet used to ache. They used to ache like a motherfucker. There's videos on my YouTube account. I've got another YouTube account called Ice Bath with Dan. And I haven't posted there in a while, but you'll see from those videos, I used to have my hands out of the water because when I put my hands in, they were agony. I couldn't put them in for longer than 10 seconds. But then I saw a couple of videos, some other guys going, persevere with it. What it is inflammation in the joints. Now, obviously, I train, well, used to, very regularly for over a decade. And my family's riddled with arthritis. And it was these joints here that were agony. And now I put my hands in at the start and I keep them in there for the whole thing and they don't hurt at all. So the science says that it reduces inflammation, and that pain is inflammation leaving that joint. So it's the fluid leaving the joint that's painful. And it's being squeezed out by the contraction of the muscle fibers because of the cold water. it also improves insulin resistance. So if anyone's got type 2 diabetes, it improves that. And the reason it improves that is because as the muscles are contracting because of the cold water, it's pushing out fluid, blood and water essentially, and it's helping the pathways that the blood flows in. It's making it more efficient, and therefore helps the absorption of insulin and thus carbohydrates, helping reduce type 2 diabetes, or the stress of that. So if you've got any form of arthritis, I can tell you firsthand, it's brilliant for that. Over the last year, I started complaining that my knuckles were starting to hurt, and I know my family's riddled with arthritis. And with the weight training, I thought, oh God, here it comes. This is arthritis. And I started putting it in, and I haven't had that ache now in over a year. So it's 100% helped. Now I'm just going to give it another swish. There's still big bits of ice in there. Oh, wrong one. Bring this table a bit closer so you can see more. There you go. Oh, it's getting nice and cold now. It's getting nice and cold. Right, still got about 4 or 5 minutes left. So basically, when I've got big chunks of ice still in there, so I just want to bring that down, because then I know all that cold water's melted off, and it says it's getting as cool as it can be. Oh, and that there is an IBC, an industrial bulk container, 1,000 litres, and that's the one I use in the winter, because it takes too much ice to get that cool. Anyway, what else do you need to know about ice baths? So, tip 1, use as much ice as you can. Tip 2, gradually build up to getting into the ice. Use a warm bath, turn the cold tap on, and get used to that thing. Cold showers are a good start as well. But ultimately, you're going to get, it's just cold water. This is the thing, it's not going to kill you. Assuming you're sensible, when you know as soon as you start to shiver, and you consult with your doctor. Get out as soon as you start shivering, you've gone too far. That's your body's way of going, yep, we're at the end now. We're as cold as we can safely get. Can we get out now? And then what you need to do is do some either go and get into a very cold bath and turn the hot water in and slowly raise your temperature, or just get dry, get dressed, and let your body heat itself up. Now that's the preference. You want to let your body heat itself up. That's going to give you the metabolic benefits. There aren't many things that increase your metabolic rate, but the ice bath will decrease your metabolic rate to start with, but then increase your metabolic rate further than it was baseline. Because your body has to heat itself up and it has to use its body, and the energy it uses to do that is stored fat cells. So I used to be dead against fads in the nutrition industry. If you ever go back and watch the back catalogue, I was a big anti-fad dieter. You know, I hated all the fads, the fat loss pills and all that shit. And for a long time, I didn't investigate ice baths because I thought it was a fad. It wasn't until a good friend of mine who I respect a lot, Ben Coomber, wasn't until I saw him do it, I thought, I might research into it then. And I was blown away with the data. I was a bit of an idiot, to be honest. Very late to the party on this one. But I discovered a guy called Wim Hof, the Wim Hof method. Now, the Wim Hof method is interesting because it combines with ice baths. They are two separate things, but what Wim Hof has done is popularized ice baths with his breathing technique. Now, the breathing technique is a double whammy, another benefit. Regulating the oxygen flow in the blood and thus the brain can improve your metabolic health. It physically makes your brain better, stronger, healthier. It puts you in a better mood, and the reason it does that is because of adrenaline. You can't feel sad when you're full of adrenaline. It's impossible. So it almost like it biologically hacks depression. It's now getting in it when you're depressed is one thing, but if you're able to, if you're able to muster up the strength to get in there when you're feeling down, then it resets you completely. You feel alive afterwards. And this is the reason why I'm doing it after the live I've just done, because just streamed for 5 hours-ish. And I'm tired. I did a 9.5 hour stream yesterday. So in the last 2 days, I've done almost 15 hours of streaming, you know, so I'm quite tired. It's taken it out of me, and it's an emotional drain, because physically I'm moving around a little bit and I'm dancing a little bit, but it's not physical exhaustion. It's a mental exhaustion. It's a mental disorder as well. So what this does is reset my hormones, if you like. It resets my adrenals. Once the adrenaline is flooded and I'm controlling that bitch, I can then use it for my own positive. I'll do some editing after this now. I'll spend some time with Sam and the kids, and then I'll chill after that, after dinner. But it gives me like a bumper boost of energy. You can time it to work for you, and I certainly do. Also, I'm just looking at some of these comments going, it's rare to have winter in Florida. Yeah, I suppose it is. It's on the equator, isn't it? Very close to it anyway. What else do I need to tell you about ice baths? Yeah, sorry, the breathing technique with the Wim Hof method regulates oxygen flow, improves your mental health, literally reverses depression in the moment. And then the other thing, this is what Vinny will be very interested in, and what I'm about to show you is there's a dopamine increase. There's a 500 times increase in testosterone and a 500 increase in dopamine. An increase in serotonin as well, but I forget how much. Now, for those that don't know, dopamine is your reward neurotransmitter. It is the euphoria we feel when we achieve something. When we win a race, when we win a bet, when we take drugs, when our parents praise us, when we finish an exam and we get the score we wanted. That feeling of elation, that rush, that high is called dopamine. And depending on how long you've struggled for, will depend on how much dopamine you get. If the struggle has lasted longer than a day, you'll get a good dopamine rush. If the struggle's lasted a month, you get a really good dopamine rush. If the struggle has lasted 4 years, like a degree, you get a distinction, the high of that lasts years. So the length of struggle directly correlates to the length of time you feel satisfied and rewarded. And of course, that feeling helps drive us motivation-wise. We feel like we now have a purpose, a goal to work towards. We feel satisfied, accomplished. We feel like we're doing something, we're achieving. And that nobody can feel those emotions enough. Those emotions are key to a happy life. No one who's happy has never achieved anything. The people who are the happiest are the people who have achieved the most. And I don't just mean success-wise, who are accomplished family-wise, who are accomplished from a religion spiritually, who are accomplished in their work, but also in their hobbies and their craft. The people who have got the biggest resume of achievements often are the happiest. It can be a double-edged sword. A lot of people who win the big stuff, like lottery winners, go into depression often. Olympic athletes go into depression often because that high is so big that they lose the flavour and everything else. Because what can once you've imagine being Usain Bolt, imagine being the fastest man to ever live, ever. You're the fastest. You won a gold medal. You've beaten everyone. You beat your world record. Like there's nothing higher than that in that sport. He's reached the top. He is the top of the mountain. He is the mountain. We will talk about Usain Bolt until someone beats his 9.58 time. And however long that takes, his name will be brought up in conversation when we talk about speed and running. His name will be brought up in conversation for decades and millennia to come. He will go down in history as as the greatest to ever do it. Like that high, that dopamine rush must have been unworldly, but there's no good deed goes unpunished, and the fall from that mountain is going to be tough. I haven't heard from him in years actually, so maybe he's currently going through it. Anyway, we digress. So getting out of this ice bath, by the longer you can struggle in that water, and you can increase the amount of time you can stay in there through the breathing. The breathing helps stay you in there longer because it helps circulate the blood. Breathing is forcing the blood to be circulated, which means it's spinning around your core, being heated back up and then put back out into your extremities, heated back up. So all the time you keep the breathing, I'm a bit blocked out because of hay fever, apologies. Repeating 30 or more of those deep breaths and then holding your breath on an exhale. So holding your breath with no air in your lungs, repeating and seeing how long you can hold your breath for. Now what that does is puts you in a state of what's called hypoxia. And that is where you are challenging your adrenal reflex. The urge to want to breathe, you have to fight. Okay, don't pass out and tell someone you're doing this so that if you faint and drown, I don't want that on my conscience, right? Talk to a doctor, don't be an idiot. But you can do this breathing technique. It's 30 deep breaths through the nose, 30 exhales, nice and quick, just like I was doing. And on the last one, then you hold your breath with no air in there and you see how long you do it for. And then once you take your deep breath, you count your time, and then you try and beat that each interval. Now I like to do 4 or 5 rounds of that. The longest I've held my breath for is 2 minutes 10 seconds. Now of course, because you're in the cold water and you're not moving, you're not using as much oxygen. Because your core temperature is getting colder and colder, you don't use as much oxygen either. Therefore, your need to breathe is quite easy to fight to begin with. But the more you fight it, the more adrenaline is released, the more dopamine is released. So you can actually, how high do you want to go? How good do you want to feel after it? Because you're in control of it. If I do 1 round, I feel all right afterwards, you know, I've got a bit of energy. If I do 5 rounds and I can hit about 90 seconds to 2 minutes each round of the breath, when I come out of this ice bath, I could go and play 90 minutes of football. I could do a marathon. It gives you this energy to do it. For some reason, it's more of an afternoon thing for me, rather than a morning thing. I might do one before the live actually and see if you guys notice the difference. Look out for that. I'll test. I'll just randomly do one in the morning and then before the live and see if you notice the difference. My mind is usually clearer and I have my aggression more under control. I have a longer wick to my fuse. Right, let's stir this water up again. I think we're almost here. We're here. I think we're here, gang. I think we're here. Oh, it's really cold now. Oh yeah, we're ready. We're ready. Right, gang. You look at that for a second. I've got to take the cool packs out. They're all melted now. Got a little granny bag, I put it all in. And that goes straight into the freezer. And then after I'm done with this, I'm going to fill the tubs back up, put them in the freezer, and they'll be ready for tomorrow. Right, you can still see there's some big bits of ice in there. One, for example, it's a nice big bit. Right, let's get half naked. Keep the vest on for decency. Right, I'm going to try and control myself, put on a good appearance. Bear with me. Let's bring this closer here. A nice cleavage shot. Just like that. Hands go in. Right, I'm gonna do 5 rounds. I'm just gonna leave this running. If anyone feels like it, would you mind filming, recording my times? So I'll give you the signal. We want to aim for. Wow, it's cold today. We're going to aim for 4 rounds. I want 3 of them over 90 seconds, and I'd like to get a 2-minute. 30 breaths. My breathing's cleared up already. You want to really push it out. All right, you ready? On this one. Didn't explain the last bit. That wasn't a very good round. That's the weed, that is. All right, let's try again. So, when you break the hold, you take your first breath, you hold that as well, and then you push your blood to your head. Try and push the pressure to your head. That brings that new round of fresh oxygen back into the brain, which is the most important bit, because you don't want to pass out. So you hold that for about 5 to 10 seconds. Right, let's put, that's the warm-up, right? That's the warm-up. Let's, for anyone still wondering, it's, oh God, it splashed me in the face. Your face is very sensitive. Don't ever put your face under. You don't want your brain to get cold. That's not the objective. You don't want to kill yourself. This is what's it called? Controlled. There's a mosquito in here. Controlled pain. So my skin is now hurting, like it's aching. Almost all of my skin is very sore, and my knuckles have started to ache again. I haven't had an ice bath for 2 days, so I think that's the build-up of inflammation for not doing it. Right, let's go for a proper round this time. The other thing I mentioned, you might see the water ripple. There's a technique to try and get as much oxygen from the lungs as you can when you're in that exhaled hold. You kind of fill the ribs, but you don't take in any air. So if you see me kind of the water doing this, I'm not breathing. I can assure you it's just my ribs going in and out because I'm voluntarily trying to squeeze all the oxygen in and out that's left in the lungs. Halfway. Swallowing some.
not happy about that one either. Oh, that didn't feel very good. That felt barely a minute. You can see me physically convulsing there. I'm trying to stop that reflex. It's very difficult to do, but you can keep fighting. I'll try and pay attention. Round 2. I associate that reflex, wanting to breathe, with the little demon. In my head I have images of me with a baseball bat beating it, trying to stop myself from breathing, if that makes sense. It's and then when the adrenaline comes out and the dopamine comes out, my head is quiet. Like right now, I said this to Sammy the other day. Look how big this ice still is. I mean, it's fucking cold in here. Am I going red yet? Yeah. Oh, my skin is on fire. What was I going to say? I said this to Sam the other day. Like when I'm in here, it's bliss. There's not a negative thought. There's not a ruminating thought. I'm not beating myself up. And the longer I can stay in here before I shiver, the more accomplished I feel, because it's a fight. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. You're fighting with yourself in here. It's taken me since October to be able to be this calm in here, because every urge wants to get out, every single urge, but it creates mental resilience. That's undeniable, and makes you mentally stronger. That's for sure. And you can become adapted to the ice. Like, it's called I forgot what it's called now. Cold water adapted. Ross Edgley is a really good example of cold water adaptation. If you don't know who Ross Edgley is, he's an incredible athlete. He does endurance swims. He swam around Britain, first man ever to do it, uninterrupted. Like, he just kept swimming. He slept on the boat, came on the boat to eat, but he would spend 12 hours a day in the water and swam for 12 hours a day. Unbelievable athlete. And he did that all around Scotland in the freezing water. He's now in the North Pole, I believe. This is how in tune you get. I can predict when I'm going to start to shiver. I felt something happened in my core that I felt, where it's almost like I've gone down a gear. Like I now feel really cold. So there's no urge to shiver yet. I can be in here quite a while now before I shiver. And it gives you a load of confidence in cold water. My jaw's not going or anything. How long have I been in here now? 20 minutes? 15 minutes? Maybe 10 minutes actually. Exaggerating a bit. But this big lump is still pretty big. I mean, the waters can't melt this at the moment. So it's about 1-2 degrees Celsius. It's melting slowly. Of course, I was going to say. Ross Edgley. Yeah, he now spends hours in the cold water. So it's given me a lot of confidence in terms of if I'm ever in a dire situation where I end up in a frozen lake, I'm going to be all right. I feel quite confident. I feel like I could, you know, rescue the passengers from the car, because I can hold my breath for ages without air in my lungs. And I wonder how long I could do it with full lungs. Tell you what, we'll do that one now. I won't exhale. I'll hold the breath and see how long I can hold that for. That'll be interesting. Right. Anyway, stop talking. Round 3. Time myself. Just noticed the clock on here. So we'll go at 49, is that? Just under 2 minutes ish. 1 minute 40 was it? It's disappointing. How's that big lump doing? It's getting a bit smaller now. That's what she said. Oh, and the other thing as well, it is hilarious the micro peanuts you get after this. Boys, you will never see it smaller. My balls are up by my lungs. It's so funny, right? I remember Sam going, show me, because I was laughing. Like, she was like, show me, and I was like, there's no way you're seeing this. There is no way. It's funny, but it's not that funny. Oh, that was right there. All right, babe. He's ignoring me now. All right, babe. Ah, there we go. You all right? Oh, all right, one more round. How long have I been in now? It's got to be 20 minutes now. It's got to be. 55-minute, 52-minute live. Downturned into trans. God, I almost read that out, mate. Careful, please, you're going to get me cancelled. Oh, I'm just getting that little demon to F off. It's just, it is, mate. It's complete. It's if you're somehow able to connect the little devil to that reflex of wanting to breathe, if you can beat that reflex back, the more and more you can get used to that fight. I mean, it's a real struggle. I mean, you can see it, right? That confound, like I'm doing everything I possibly can not to breathe. I know it sounds mental, but that urge becomes so great that it's uncontrollable, and that's adrenaline. That's adrenaline forcing you to breathe. It's a reflex you can't. Obviously, you've got to breathe, right? You fucking pass out if you're not. But if you can get yourself up to the door of passing out-ish, you be sensible. Always tell someone you're in here. Consult your fucking doctor. Don't be an idiot. Use your common sense. I've been doing this almost a year now, right? So it's why I'm making it look so comfortable. But please rest assured, this is agony right now. Real agony. All right, last round. I can do slow breaths this time. And why do you do breathing? Because it helps you stay in here for longer. The longer you stay in here, the bigger the struggle. The bigger the struggle, the bigger the rush at the end. Like, I'm staying here in here for as long as I possibly can, because I know as soon as I get out, I'm going to feel alive. And Vinny, mate, that's what you're going to get from this. It's like cocaine. It really is. It's a real good rush. It's a real. You're focused. You're energetic. You're determined. Gives you a bit of aggression to play with. Nothing too crazy. You don't want to go and beat your wife or anything like that. But it certainly allows you to control your temper, because you're controlling your anger right now. My testosterone is going up by 500%. Up to. Look at the data. It's so I'm having to control that. My libido will be up after this, you know, so that's another benefit. And if you can time this to do either before weight training or after weight training, if you do it after, it's good for endurance athletes. If you do it before, it's good for bodybuilding, getting bigger and stronger muscles. If you do it after the gym, it won't help with hypertrophy at all, because it reduces inflammation. Hypertrophy requires inflammation. But if you do it beforehand, you flush out any inflammation that you previously do have, you increase your adrenaline, you increase your testosterone, and you feel like you have an amazing workout. And you use the workout to warm yourself back up. So you get double whammy metabolic effect as well. Right, last round. Oh, I just had a shiver wave. Let me do some breathing, that'll disappear. So I know I'm reaching my time limit now, because I just had I felt like I wanted to shiver, but I controlled that bitch. The breathing will get that feeling to disappear.
swallowing so much. It has been a tutorial, Vinny. I titled it Ice Bath for Beginners. That felt like it was the best one out of all of them. Right, gang. I can feel the shivers starting, so I'm going to wrap up now. I forgot to mention one thing. What do you do if when you first get in, you start to go... What happens when you do that? So all you do there is try to control your breathing, and you do that by forcing a rhythm with your breath. So instead of... let's say, for example, you stand in it and the water's up to your knees and you start going, or as you start to lower yourself, you go, and that's the adrenaline is becoming uncontrollable at that point. So at that point, what you do is you stand back up, wait until that kind of hyperventilation stops, and then do this. You're forcing a tempo, you're forcing a rhythm with your breath. And then as you lower and you get that urge to do that, that rhythm will stop you from becoming out of rhythm. So you form a frequency with your breath. And you're overriding your reflex, your hyperventilation reflex, which is the same reflex that makes you want to breathe. So it's like the first level. Think of this very much as a game. Think of it as a game, and there are levels to it. So I think I've been in here 30 minutes now. Wim Hof can do 2 hours. I forget what the world record is, but there's levels to this. Like each day you do it, if you're able to stay in here longer than you did before you start to shiver, then you're increasing your tolerance further and further and further. I mean, the fact that Wim Hof can stay in this thing for 2 or 4 hours,
I forget what the record is absolutely mind-blowing. Vinny says, thanks so much, man. You're a saint. My pleasure, my mate. My pleasure. Hopefully there's enough information here for you all to start your ice bath journey. And if you do, give me a shout out on an ice bath video. Tag me in a post or something. Right, I'm going to dry my hands. How red am I, out of interest? Oh, not that red. Delt looking good. Alright, gang, I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, well, I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend.